Living a story worth retelling, man. I'm just so happy for you guys to come. I know it's been a while, but I want you guys to come through and just spend some time with me, man, because I want to talk about another layer to my journey. And another layer to my journey is really, really very practical. So I think you guys are going to love this part because this part is deep and this part is real. I'm going to talk about my godparents slash adopted parents. And my godparents slash adopted parents really played an instrument part of my Christian walk. And I'm going to tell you why they played an instrument part of my Christian walk. I mean, I spoke about them in my first episode, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually talk about my godfather and my godmother individually. So this one, I'm going to talk about my godmother. I'm going to talk about my godfather. If you want to hear about my godfather, you got to go to the next segment. If you want to hear about my god sister, you got to go to the next segment. If you want to hear about my god brother, you got to go to the next segment. But before I even get into my godmother and that journey and my Christian walk, like, share, comment, like, even subscribe. Hold me down. Like, I need some of y'all to like come out the woodwork. I mean, I love the Ghost fans. Don't get it twisted. I love y'all Ghost fans because, you know, it just tells me that people are interested in seeing what I got going on. But I would love to see those of you who are watching and think. Now, don't get it twisted. A lot of you that are following this and looking into this, y'all really keeping it. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. The people that are reaching out, it's really blessing me in the sense of understanding that God has His hand in things, right? And God heals all people through anybody. God can heal anybody through anybody. So let's go to let's talk about my godmother, right? So my godmother's name is Shelly Hartman. She's married to a guy named Marcos Carr. And when I say Carr, not Carl, it's not the same spelling as my last name. It's Caro. You guys know my last name to be Karr, but it's Caro. That's my godfather and godmother's last name. It's not my last name. Um, but it was very divine and interesting to see that piece when it comes to how we even like orchestrated or even how God even aligned us to be one. So the crazy thing is, like I said in my first video when I talked about the journey, it's single the first episode is single the journey. My my godmother and godfather discovered me when I was in the foster care and juvenile system. Right, I was in the juvenile system, transitioned into the foster care system, and you know my mother was fighting like crazy to get me back. And the narratives were stacked up against her. And well, I would let's say not narratives. The negative narratives were stacked up against my mom because you know I was caught. I was caught up. I was in a position where I had a gun charge um, that most people don't know about that got thrown out in court. Um, and then I had some attempted assault situations. And all these situations were just opportunities to try to protect my mom at such a young age, right? I wasn't even in my teens when I was caught up with all these things. And by the grace of God, the family court judge that got my case in the beginning, literally, uh, how do I want to present this to you guys or express this? Like she automatically from jump saw that, hey, this is not a criminal. This is not a bad dude. This is not your ordinary, you know, situation. And um she understood where I was living. You know, location, environment is everything, right? So I was living in Best Eye. I was living on Troop and Willoughby Street. Um, you know what I mean? On Marcus Garvey Boulevard. And the crazy part about it, which is very crazy, I never forget my building number. And that my building number slash old building number is still the same. It was 666 Willoughby Street between Troop and Marcus Garvey. That's where I live. And if you know anything about that area in the '90s, it was the mecca of violence. It was the mecca of drugs. Um, a lot of black wealth was formulated or even structured or discovered through, or even I would even say this, sponsored by drugs. A lot of people started their businesses off of what they say dirty money. They call it dirty money, but my mother was in a relationship with a dude who um, he didn't have her best interests. He actually just was interested in my mother for her beauty and what she had to offer. He didn't really care to foster my mom or cater or mentally stimulate or do any of the things that a woman looks for from a man. And I'll be honest, I'll never forget. He used to beat my mother all the time, and I remember one time I the first situation that happened is I actually sliced him right on his wrist, and I remember he was bleeding, and someone saw the commotion outside, and they called the cops, and the cops came, and I never forget the cops came, and they took us both down, and the cops actually took me down and got a statement for me and all these things, and I remember he didn't even want to talk, he didn't cooperate, so we all went home that night. That was the first situation. And the second situation, um, me and three of my friends chased him with a bat. Another time, I remember one time he pushed my mom on the floor, and again, these this guy is, I want to say, 250, 6'4". No, I'm not even 6'4". He's 6'8", 6'8", 250, pushing a person with sickle cell, open ulcers on their leg, on their ankles, and pushing them down to the floor. And as a kid, that's set from seven, because I dealt with this guy from 7 to 9 years old. From 7 to 9 years old, I'm witnessing this dude do this to my mom. So for me, automatically, it was practical that I protect my mom. So the second situation, after slicing his wrist, I remember me and my friends, we had just came from the baseball field, and at least five of us we had bats. And I'll never forget when he pushed my mom on the ground. I looked at this dude like, "Are you dumb?" And one of my mans, I looked at my mom like his mom. His name is Keyshawn. Keyshawn was like, "Nah, bro." And they used to call him KK. He was like, "Nah, bro, we got to run down on him." And we chased him for 6 blocks. Someone called the police then, because I mean, back in those days, a lot of people had 911 on speed dial just because of the stuff that happened in my neighborhood where I grew up. So I never forget. People called the cops, and I never forget. We were hyped. We were like, if he come back here, we're gonna take him out. Mind you, we're young. We're none of us are 10. None of us are 10 at this point. And then the last straw was I actually attempted to shoot him with a CZ-45, and guns evolve now, where you got Smiths on guns, you got safeties on guns. Me, I just literally actually got a gun from one of my friends. Um, what they call as a big homie OG. To simplify it, we'll say gang leader. Um, that actually looked at me as a member as well, and actually gave me the gun and told me to do what I got to do. Just don't get caught with it, and don't talk. And that's basically the time I was living in. And I never forget, I tried to take him out, but like I tell everybody all the time, I think God had a different plan because my hand actually broke. Um, my hand actually fractured and broke, and I never forget when I was in the hospital and the cops approached us and they had the footage on what happened or what I tried to do. You could almost see where the gun, the kickback of the gun, actually scraped my hand, and it actually broke my hand, and it actually took me out for a little bit, and it was crazy. But I say all that, and I open up with all that just to let you understand. This is what my godmother is reading from different social workers when she's looking into getting inserting somebody into her family or adding somebody to her family. This is what she's reading. Now, it was also divine for me because she also has a relationship with the Lord. She loves Jesus. In fact, Jesus Christ is her Lord and Savior as well. And I never, and when her and my mother connected, they were instantly friends. And I think that plays a big factor to me on how I can actually connect with other people, because my mom, my adopted slash godmom, she is actually not black. She's actually, she was born in the States here in America. She's a white. She's a Caucasian white descent female that just loves the Lord and that has a heart for people. And her and my mother instantly became really really close. And when I say they became really really close, they became so close to the point where her and my godfather, her husband, which is my godfather, connected with my mom, and they instantly became family. And I mean, they got the paperwork to they got the paperwork put together to legally be family. And then next thing you know, they because this is what my mom was up against. Foster care wasn't trying to release me back to my mom's care because of all the things I opened up with about my experience with trying to take out my mom's one of my mom's boyfriends. Not only that was up against me, but it didn't help that my mother was in the hospital every other week and didn't have nobody to watch over me. And back in those days, um, foster care didn't care about keeping families together. Now you'll see all type of organizations that are in foster care or that in the child welfare business, and even offices of OCFS and ACS. Their mission is to keep families together by any means necessary. But back then, when I was a kid in the system, that wasn't the case. So they wasn't trying to get my mom back to me. So what happened was my adopted parents had to like auction to get custody of me, right? And then and the loophole was get custody of me and get a crib, get a place, and get a crib, get a place somewhere local that where me and my mom can live, and just have us live there. Because legally, you can't tell parents how to parent. The only thing foster care kid at that time is if the child was eating, and if the child had clean clothes, and if the child um, felt safe. If those three things were intact, they're not taking the child away. And we orchestrated stuff. We made sure things were in alignment, and we made sure that when ACS was because when I did get because the beauty of this, I did end up getting back in my mom's care, but ACS, OCFS, everybody tracked us for about 6 months to make sure we were good, and then when the 6 month period happened, they left us alone. But I'll say this: my godmom was more of a blessing than I could ever imagine, because my godmom took me in as one of her own children. And I mean, up to this day, she treated me like a son. Um, the only reason why she wasn't at my wedding was because she was battling some health issues that I want to keep confidential. But she loves my wife. She loves me. Um, her and her husband, they came to my wedding. They showed out. Well, her husband came to my wedding and showed out for the both of them. Because like I said, my godmother couldn't come to my wedding, and she always had an ear I could talk to. I could call her. Now, over the years, by nature, I've gravitated to her husband more so, and I'll talk about him next segment. But my godmother is, a lot of people say, there's that mother love, and from a young man, a boy always falls in love with his mother first. Well, I think I fell in love with my mom and my godmother, and I think I fell in love with two moms, right? Because my mom's not here, but Shelly Hartman makes it her intentional. She is so intentional about making sure that I'm not alone. She is so intentional about making sure that I can call her when I need to. Uh, what's so funny is my godmother has Snapchat, so she's always sending me snaps, and we're always trolling each other on Snapchat. And um, my god sister recently graduated from Yale, so you know, every time I'm in Boston, uh, checking out Eastern Nazarene College, which is a school that I was once a part of, and um, I always go on alumni. I always go on alumni events at ENC, and literally, every time I go there, I make it my business to go see my family, and it's always it's always a good time. Whether we're talking about health, whether we're talking about life, it's like they're excited to see where I'm at, and I'm excited to see where they are. Um, we always check in, but when it comes to my godmom, she treats me like a son. There's I don't want for nothing. Every time I call her, she picks up. Every time I ask her for advice on, because I'm not married, she gives me such sound advice. Um, you know, and when my mom was alive, she was doing the same thing and didn't make my mom feel any way. Didn't have that, like it's one of those things where I got blessed with an extended family from Jesus, um, and we are just so deep. One of the things we bond with a lot is we both love what the Christian church talks about is or what the people with the Christian church refer to as CCM or contemporary music. I mean, me and her could be in the car and listen to Hillsong or any of these contemporary artists, and it's such a good um thing because we bond with that so much, and I mean we can talk about the scriptures, and then another thing is she's always telling me where me and my wife should go next. She was one of the people that recommended um Disney World, and whatever. She always used to tell me and my wife, we need to touch Disney World, we need to touch Disney World. It's just this year my wife decided to plan Valentine's Day, and that was my surprise. We went to Disney World, but it was always a promoted thing. But I want you guys to understand that when it comes to the scriptures, when it says honor your mother and your father, I honor my god mommy like she is my real mom. Paperwork that says adopted god mommy, it don't matter. She's my mom because she stepped into a gap that she knew I needed. And actually, she's actually been a source and a beacon and a beacon of light in my life. And she's also filled the gap where I feel invalidated in. Like she affirms every piece, and she's actually been a big therapeutic piece to my healing, right? Because because my the years with my biological mom was such short lived because of sickle cell. Sometimes, and I was talking about this with my wife last night. I'm stuck in my childhood sometimes, right? And I can be honest like that as a man. Sometimes I'm stuck in my childhood because when my mother was healthy and when she was in good health, it was beautiful moments. We loved each other. Literally, I remember one time my mother acted as if she bought a bunch of toys one Christmas. She acted like she bought it for the neighbor. She was like, "Man, I ain't buying you no toys, man. I just don't got it. But I'm gonna buy the toys for our neighbor because I want to stay friends with them." And I never forget, like as a kid, I'm not putting it together. I'm like, "Mom, why are you buying these?" And all the toys I wanted, my mother's buying it. She's talking about she buying it for somebody else. And and literally when Christmas Day came and I opened all the gifts, I said, "Mom, these are mine." She said, "Yeah." I said, "I thought you was buying me all gifts." She said, "Yeah, I knew you'd believe me. So go ahead, open your gifts." And all the toys I saw her buy, it was mine. I mean, it was crazy. It was a good time. But those are not the only good memories I get to keep. I get to go into now and still have a mom I can call on and really call on her. There's no gossip. There's no ill will. It's if I fail, she has my back. She's on some, "Hey Sid, you all right? You were wrong in this situation, but I still love you. Call me later. Call me tomorrow." call me here, and then call me this. And it's literally a thing. I mean, I even went to Boston, right? And I honestly, be honest, I only got to chill with my godfather for the amount of time I wanted to do. Everybody else was a pass through. But when I tell you, me and my godfather is sitting at a coffee shop taking snaps and sending it to my godmother, my god sister, and they're taking snaps, sending it back to us. I mean, literally, it's just a thing. Where today I want to let you guys know my Christian faith was shaped very much because of my godmother and what she has contributed to my life. And I would not be who I am if Shelly Hartman didn't step in 2002. When I was 12 years old, I was recovering from getting my leg broken in the foster care system. Um, at 10 years old, I got my leg broken. Um, so I say all this to say, like, God had a plan, and who would have knew, right? I thought I would have been the only person to understand the adopted and god mommies and all that realm, but it just so happens that my wife has the same exact story. Different experiences, but same exact story. Um, so it's the same and different at the same time. But I love you, Shelly. Shelly, I look at you as a person that I can never replace. Um, and in the church, you call a lot of people mothers, and you call a lot of people, "Hey, ma, how you doing?" And you say all these things to a lot of people. But when it comes to Shelly Hartman, she's actually my mom, and she took me in, and she supported me and poured into me, and still up to this day pours into me, so I can be better. Um, so I want you guys to understand that live a story worth retelling right here. I'm retelling you this story because this shaped my Christian walk. And if I did not meet her, I don't know where I will be at in God. If I didn't meet her, her husband, and their family, and at the time, her and her husband, they had just given birth to their first child. I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for Shelly Hartman. So I wanted to take this time to talk about my mother, my second mother, because I look at her the same way. If she goes on the decline, like how my mother did, I will be the first person on a bus or a plane to Boston to make sure she gets the best care. Because at the end of the day, she didn't have to go through all the things she went through to actually bring me in as a son. And she has developed trauma and different things because of how the system treated her, and she saw how the system was treating me. So the fact that she still brought me in as a son, man, Shelly Hartman, I'll never forget you. You're my mom, and promise, like, I always say this all the time, like, if her and my mother was alive and I end up hitting the lotto, they're the first two people I'm calling. Like, hey, you don't gotta work no more. Come on. And of course, my godfather, who's I'm gonna speak at the next segment. So we're at the place where I'm about to dip, right? I'm about to go into the next segment. I'm about to talk about my godfather. Um, but I want you guys to remember and highlight this part, right? I want you guys to look into this right here, right? And remember, Jesus, right, would always take the time to send someone in your life to either do good or bad. But in the good or the bad, there's always a lesson. And this lesson I learned from my second mom and my second dad is that God was was faithful and continues to be faithful in my life. And I want to encourage all of you to be encouraged and understand that you may not hear it, you may not feel it, you may not see it, you may not understand it, but Jesus is always consistent and he's always faithful. And I encourage you to always tap into that. Jesus changed my life when he sent those two in my life. And if it wasn't for them, again, I don't know where I'll be. I don't even think I'll have the desire to be married, right? Because my mom, my biological mom, wasn't married. Boy, Sydney, live a story worth retelling. Yo, please like, share, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts about this video. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. I love y'all, man. Hit me up.